Theme.
Yeah. Hello, everybody. I'm here today with Dominic. How do you pronounce your last name?
Severage.
Severich. All right.
Yes.
Um, Same first name.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually wondered where you got your name because I actually got my name from Vin Diesel in the Fast and the Furious.
Really?
Yes, Dominic
That's
Toretto.
exactly that's exactly where my dad tells me that I got my name from. That's
Makes
actually
sense
hilarious.
because you're 19, correct?
Yeah, born
Yeah.
2004.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I just turned 21, so same time period. Makes sense.
yeah. Well, how are you doing today?
I'm good. Just got off work, ready to. I'm going to Canada tomorrow for a little staycation, so that'll be fun.
Fun.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, I've been to Canada once. It was on a Alaska cruise, and we had a stop in Victoria, British Columbia, Canada. So
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
was fun.
I'm excited. Very excited.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, my name is Dominic. I'm 21 years old, and I am the son of an addict. My mom's been in active addiction for the last 11 years of my life. Now starting to come out of it. But yeah, so by the time I was 11 years old, she was in active addiction. And yeah, um, me and my two brothers started a podcast called The Final Fix, kind of just trying to open up the conversation about addiction and talking to past addicts and counselors and stuff like that. And
Hmm.
just trying to do, the same thing that you and your mom are doing, just advocating for addicts and past addicts and all the sorts.
Yeah, and that's nice because like especially you doing that because I like most of the content that I've seen on addiction is usually from like an older generation. So it doesn't seem like there's too many youth speaking out on addiction.
Yeah, it's very prevalent in our day-to-day lives. I mean,
Yeah.
it's unfortunately everywhere.
Yes, and it's only growing.
Yeah, yeah, very much so.
Yeah. It's a sad thing to see. Um I know for me my mother was in addiction for like um I mean she was in addiction before I was born and then still for like basically my like most of my like childhood where I would really consider it to be still a childhood even though I didn't feel like a kid for a lot of it, um which I know is something that is shared among many people who were in those types of environments as a kid. Tell me about how that affected you.
Um, the biggest thing, especially with my mom sort of exiting my life, she kind of disappeared when I was around, like 11 and a half, 12. There are things now that as a little kid, you don't notice, but, she's letting me miss school or she's going to go run an errand and she's gone for a long time. But the biggest things that like affected me because she exited my life is just kind of being sad out of nowhere. You don't really realize why you're sad when you're that young. And um, my grades started to drop. I started not going to school, skipping school. I never got into trouble per se, but my family now tells me that I was a completely different person in those, early years until I started to grow up and realize what was going on.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to see in the moment, especially at that young of an age. But it always is a lot clearer looking back on it because you kind of like know you know information now that you did not know at the time, and you also understand things that you didn't at the time. So it's a very hindsight is 2020 kind of thing.
Definitely. Definitely. I mean, I wish I was old enough to see the signs because then, maybe it could have helped her. But that's why it's so great what we're doing because, helping a younger audience identify these things and kind of cope with these things. It's
Yeah,
an amazing thing.
and understand like what's going on, and um that like your your parent like probably did not want to leave you, but they probably felt that it was like for the better just because of the environment that it puts you in, which
Yeah.
in a lot of cases it is the better choice, but the ways that it is implemented can sometimes be not the not the best.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Especially when it's not communicated. I mean, you just, one day
Yes.
your mom is gone and,
Yeah.
you don't know how to handle that.
Yeah. And for me, as far as that goes, I don't ever remember anything being communicated to me. Not that it wasn't, but I don't have a memory of it. So,
Yeah. Yeah, nothing was. I mean, I had a great support system. I have three older siblings. I'm the youngest in the family, and my dad was like my rock through the whole thing. But I mean, telling a 12-year-old that their mom is addicted to a substance, I mean, how far can it really go in their mind?
yeah. How much can you really expect them to understand?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Even till recently, I didn't really. Until we started talking to people, I didn't really understand the monster that addiction is. I mean, it is truly something that can happen to anyone. And as much as people like to think like, oh, that could never do that, it's just a mental thing. You need to get over
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
It's
you don't think that it could happen to you until it does.
yeah,
And then you're like,
exactly.
"Oh crap. What do I do now?"
Yeah, yeah. I mean, exactly. My mom always told me, even before she was an addict, she told me that, homeless people or the people that are asking for money, you don't grow up and that's what you want to do. There's a
Yeah.
reason. There's a circumstance that they're there, and it can happen to anyone.
Yeah. It's 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 very it's a thing that is growing very much recently.
Yeah,
Um which who knows? Well, I'm pretty sure we all have an idea of what's causing it, but it's there's lots of things that are affecting the world right now, causing all kinds of awful stuff to happen.
yeah.
Um, but anyways, um, what are your thoughts on specifically like what are your thoughts on addiction in general? And then what were your thoughts when you were like what were you thinking when you were younger and your mother kind of left?
Uh, Addiction in general it's an extremely scary thing. I feel like it's a reality that not a lot of us like to see. I mean, you can be addicted to anything. I mean, I know I have an addiction to my phone. So starting this year, I put the screen time on and try to get off of that, or an addiction to video games, or anything. Um, it's it's when it really affects other people that you notice it. Like mm, a big thing for me is like alcohol is such a normalized addiction. It is just a normal thing for people to be able to, get home and, go through their day and drink until they pass out at night. Like, it's something that just needs more communication. It needs to be brought up more. And people need to be aware of it. People don't even realize, I mean, until it's too late.
Mm-hmm.
And then my feelings on when I was younger. It was mostly abandonment. It was a lot of sadness. I never really got angry, just because my mom was like my favorite person in the world, so I couldn't be angry at her for something that I didn't understand. But definitely abandonment and doing things in life, trying to make her proud, and not seeing that, not seeing her be proud of me. It's like super hard, and so I found that I was trying to overdo things for other people to get that sense of acknowledgement for myself.
Hmm. And I'm sure in doing that you kind of overwork yourself just because it's like you're just always going, always in go mode, which is not good for your brain.
No.
Your brain has a go mode and a rest mode. And you're supposed to have an equal balance of the two, and when you don't, it can kind of like screw things up.
Oh yeah.
Um, yeah. Um, so speaking on um like or first I have a question. Do you know what substance your mother is or was addicted to?
It started with pills. It started with muscle relaxers, I believe, and then I want to say Xanax. I'm not totally. It was pills at first, and then it escalated into heroin, and so it escalated to heroin, and then it went into fentanyl. And I mean, that's to my knowledge. I mean, there, you never know, but
Hmm.
that is what I know.
Yeah. Um, so I have personal experience with some of those things, and I know that the like especially the pills like muscle relaxers and Xanax especially. Xanax is becoming a huge problem in today's youth culture. It's like
Yes.
people think that it is cool to just pop a Xan and get high on it. But one, if it is a real Xan, uh, you're causing changes in your brain that can take years to undo if they are going to be able to be undone at all.
No.
Like um there are studies that show that like some of the effects of benzo withdrawal, so like Xanax withdrawal, Klonopin withdrawal. I was personally on Klonopin. Um, they can be like up to like your entire lifetime, which it's like imagine doing something in your teens and like your entire life like you are affected like you your your brain is changed for the rest of your life and you never
No.
feel the same way again after that.
Yeah.
Like and then on top of that they don't even know that. Like most
No.
people don't even know that that is what happens. It's
Yeah.
a very real thing and it's very scary. Like I personally knew, but I was on it for like anxiety. I was given
Mhm.
it by my doctor.
Yeah. Prescribed.
But it's still even it being prescribed, taking it in the way that it was prescribed, it's still addictive as hell.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it was awful getting off of it. I just remember feeling like every muscle in my body tense up, being in like a cold sweat, not being able to sleep, and feeling like I was gonna have a seizure, which
Yeah.
is what happens if the if your addiction to it was bad enough.
Hmm.
Um, and then the other course is you don't get Xanax and you get fentanyl, which in that case it's honestly like a coin flip if you die or not, because it's like nobody's regulating the people with
No.
Xanax presses putting fentanyl into it. Like they count on that. They count on nobody regulating it. Um, it's really awful to be honest. Um,
Yeah, the consequences is, I mean, you're so
yeah,
young and these kids think it's so fun. It's, partying or whatever it is. And like the consequences that can come from it are just so real. It's like, yeah,
yeah, and on top of that, like there's a large culture of mixing alcohol with pills, and Xanax and drugs like that specifically, um, they don't like the the feeling from it isn't like one added to the other. It's like one multiplied by the other. And so you end up being way more intoxicated than you intended to get, and it's possible to die from respiratory depression just from just from mixing alcohol and Xanax. It's
jeez,
it's a really scary thing.
I can't
Yeah.
believe that. I didn't know that. That is, I mean, people
Yeah.
do that all the time.
The like the the downer effects of like the two of those mixing together is strong enough to cause respiratory depression just like fentanyl or any opioid does.
Yeah,
It's actually really crazy. And really sad because a lot of people, despite like despite knowing that it's not good to mix pills and alcohol, they still do it.
yeah,
Whether that be because they are trying to be cool and like do that shit at parties and just look cool in front of their friends, whether they're just trying to have fun and get high, or they're like a lot of us who have problems and are using that stuff to mask,
yeah.
which it's honestly the case among a lot of the people that I've known that did that kind of thing. It's like they they like do it at parties and stuff and or like just with their friends, but they're really like masking stuff inside. And
Yeah.
I can speak for that because well, I didn't really get into that crowd of like mixing alcohol and pills. Um, I definitely can speak for the using a substance to mask because that was a lot of my addiction. Very I was very depressed, very anxious, and I just didn't want to feel that way. And when I had the first thing I did was take Vyvanse that was prescribed to me, except I just took it like took way more than I was supposed to. And I was
Mhm.
like, hey, I don't really feel bad anymore. I feel pretty good actually. And it's like,
Yeah,
well shit, why don't I do this more often? Uh
exactly.
because you're gonna regret it. That's why.
Yeah. I mean, yeah,
It's
emotional intelligence. I feel like that's a big thing among addicts is like the having the emotional intelligence to, try to kind of see the rut that you're in. And once it becomes your coping mechanism, I feel like that's the scariest part because that's when you get home from work and it's like, okay, I have to do this to feel good. Like today was the worst day of my life. I have to make it feel better. And it's so
yeah,
scary that people rely on that.
that's the worst when it's like that's kind of the only thing that's
Yeah.
left that actually works. Um which I know there were very few points in my addiction that had happened. Um, so what other experience with addiction do you have? Do you have any yourself, or do you have any friends that you know that were addicted?
I don't have any myself. Um, Growing up around it, I kind of like I've never drank before. Like I turned 21 like a month ago, and everyone's talking to me about drinking and stuff, and I'm like, not a chance. I'm not gonna try it. But I went to high school with a couple people who overdosed on fentanyl. And other than my mom, I mean, I met a lot of people around my mom that were addicts and stuff like that, but not a lot of experience with other people with addiction, knowingly at least.
Yeah,
That's yeah.
because there are a lot of people out there who just like how they use drugs to mask whatever may be causing them to do them. Um, they're also able to mask uh, the symptoms of them or the signs of them being on those drugs, which um, I know that I got fairly decent at that. At least I think. As you hear, children always think that they're good at getting away with things
Yeah.
until later in life their parents are like, no, you were awful at that. We knew every time.
Yeah, it
And
was
you're like,
extremely
crap.
obvious. Yeah.
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 just just walking in through the front door at like 3 a.m. and immediately going to the fridge, it's like, we know.
Yeah. No, it's pretty obvious. But I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, when you're doing that though, it's like that's
You
the
think you're the
survival
sneakiest person in
mechanism.
the world.
Yeah, literally. You're like, oh, I got them. Like, oh man, like I'm so good at this
Like,
stuff.
I don't gotta worry about anything.
No, no.
Little did you know. Yeah. Um, do you have any questions for me?
Yeah, definitely. Kind of the same questions as you asked me. So kind of your feelings on it growing up, if you had any idea. I know, I mean, we obviously talked to your mom on the podcast, but coming from your perspective, how was it growing up for you?
So, for me, the I didn't see too much of like anything that even from now, or at least I don't remember seeing. Once I was like to the age where I could remember, um, I wasn't too much like directly exposed to it.
Mhm.
It was more of the consequences of it in our household, which it caused a very chaotic household. There
Mhm.
was usually like so there was at night a lot of time there would be fighting between my grandmother and my uncle,
Mhm.
who was not a huge fan of the environment that I was being put in, like when my mother would bring people over. um like I just remember, these are just some of the things I remember hearing in those like arguments at night.
Mhm.
um I remember like I also remember one thing, just like for a lot of periods in my childhood, there was just like an absence of my mother. Like, I just, this is why I was like, I don't really remember being told anything, but I
Mhm.
could have been told because it wasn't like, it didn't feel like it was a sudden thing. It felt like almost like she was there and then she was gone for a little bit and then there some more and then gone for a little bit
Yeah.
longer, and each time it was
Yeah.
like longer and longer. So I just remember there being a lot of time when I like was not with my mother um in my childhood. um Same going for my father. He was also an addict. And although there was less of that from him,
Mhm.
whatever the reason, I'm not entirely sure, or at least I haven't been told. I can always speculate, but I haven't
Yeah.
been told by either one. And then just like even after my mom had left the house, like she was no longer staying at our house, because we were all living with my grandmother.
Mhm.
um it was still um a very chaotic household, and it was just like I almost could not escape it because the neighborhood that we lived in was also not the best neighborhood, and there were quite a few other people who suffered from addiction in that neighborhood. Um, so it was like being outside, we kind of had to be like watched or be like in the yard
Yeah.
while I was outside as a kid, and so it was like not too many there were a lot of kids in my neighborhood, but because of the neighborhood that it was, a lot of them would not really like go outside too often. And I also wouldn't really be like, wouldn't really be all too, I wasn't usually all too interested in going outside just because it was, I was a bit of a chubbier child, and we live in Georgia, and it is hot as hell.
Hot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hot. Humid.
So, and when it's not hot, it is wintertime, and it is either cold as hell or the weather sucks.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. It just, I didn't have very much of a heat tolerance, so there was never really a time when I wanted to go outside. So, due to that, I didn't really have too many friends, which that is probably what caused, or almost definitely what caused, a lot of my depression and anxiety as I was growing up.
Yeah. Oh, I bet. I mean, yeah, my friends were like my biggest like fans, my biggest supporters while going through this stuff. So I could only imagine. I mean, yeah, that sounds
Yeah,
yeah, that's rough for sure. Another question I had was once your mom got clean, how did that conversation, I guess? I mean, how did that transition kind of happen, and how did it feel to you? Because I'm kind of going through it now, so I'm trying to figure
yeah,
out like how to navigate that. I mean, it's an interesting thing that you don't really think that you would have to go through, but here we are.
yeah. So it was, I think it was when I was in middle school.
So,
We started to go and visit my mom,
mhm.
where she was staying. I forget if it was at a halfway house. It was one of those types of things.
Yeah.
Um, and we would go and visit her on the weekends, every time to time, and it started to get more and more often, as we went, and it eventually was like every weekend either we would go there, or at that point she would start coming over to see us at my grandmother's house.
Mhm.
um and so that's like, and how I felt about it, uh I mean, by that point I understood what addiction was. I didn't entirely understand it the way that I do now.
Yeah.
Um,
You were young for
but
sure.
I also like, I've never been the type to really like hold grudges except for like very, very few people who have done like very awful
Yeah.
things,
Yeah.
which those are people that should have grudges held against them
Yeah. There's a good
in
reason
my
for
mind.
that.
If there is a reason, that's it. But other than that, I never really got too mad. I never really held grudges. So I was mostly just happy that I was just happy that I was able to see my mother and like hang out with her every now and then.
Mhm.
And it's like it took just like hearing some stories as I like got older and hearing more things about my mom and like understanding more things um for me to like fully understand what she went through, and for me to be like, yeah, I understand exactly why you did the things that you did. Like it was like it was damaging to me, but not as damaging as the other option.
Yeah,
Like, which, I mean, like, and also when you're recovering from addiction, um, it's, you don't like, it's not the best environment for them either to be like trying to take care of another human being while also trying to learn to take care of themselves having come from addiction.
precisely.
So it's like that makes it just very, I was just very understanding and very glad that I had my mother in my life.
Yeah,
So yeah, that's
yeah.
it's about it's about as much as I can think of to say on that topic.
Yeah. I mean, you'll take what you can get. I mean, especially when you're young like that. I mean, it's just so nice to like have their presence.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it
I'm
was.
I'm going through that now. Like we're, I'm my mom's youngest. I'm 21, and it's like I live on my own. I live with my girlfriends. Like she doesn't have to take care of me, and I want her to know that because all she talks about is like helping me out with things or making sure that I'm good. And it's like, hey, like it's sad that you haven't really been here. You don't really know me as well as I would hope that you did, but I'm good. Like, take care of yourself. Like, let me help you take care of yourself because that's the number
Yeah,
one focus. Like, anything you need, that's fine. I've come to terms with my situation, so I just want her to get better.
yeah, and that's that's like that's a good thing because it's just just having the little bit of like anxiety. I know that um when my mom was like, anytime that she would be upset or like going through anything like after her addiction, it would just always put some little bit of worry in me. And that's what like that's what basically like most people that I knew told me. They were like, she can take care of herself, you don't have to worry, but it still is going to give me
Yeah,
anxiety anyways. Like
yeah. Oh, I mean, how can
that's,
it not? That's the scariest thing
yeah,
ever.
it's like that's somebody that I care about. Like if something that is like bad is happening to them that's causing them to be upset, why am I not going to be worried about that?
Yeah,
But then you have to like experience it from, you just have to look at it from a different angle really to sort of
definitely.
understand.
Yeah. Yeah. At one of the meetings that I went to with my mom, it was like a family counseling meeting. So, but it was a big group. So it was all of the people in treatment, and then their families could join. I was the only one there representing like the families, but one of the things that they talked about was like being codependent, and addicts are extremely codependent, obviously.
Mm,
And whether it's a person or a substance, they're just very dependent on stuff. And so, um, I'm trying to, tell her that anything that, anything in the outside that is going to affect her or anything that anyone's going to say to her because, we may not 100% trust her for valid reasons. I mean, obviously she's part of the family, but I mean, circumstances have happened where you can't really trust her. And
mm-hmm.
I'm trying to tell her that the only thing that matters is her sobriety. The only thing that matters. So anything that she needs to keep that, that's what she needs to do. She needs to stop caring about what other people think. She needs to stop relying on people as much, because ultimately that's what got her into this is, relying on the wrong people, whether it was, guys or whatever it was. I'm just trying to tell her that the only thing that matters is you and your sobriety. That's it. Don't worry about anyone else. We're fine. Just take care of yourself.
Yeah. Um, I know that during my addiction, like just whenever I would worry about my mother, it would always worsen whatever it was that I was like whether it was when I was younger and I was just like mostly just like smoking and occasionally like doing psychedelics or some other like small things that aren't really the main drugs of
Yeah.
addiction that we see today.
Yeah.
Um but I know that especially uh once I had once I had started using meth, which was my drug of choice for a little bit, um, that's what I really used to mask any feelings that I had because it was like, unless they were good feelings, I basically didn't really want to feel them that much.
Yeah.
And that makes you basically just feel good, which it makes you feel too good, which is why it's bad because you're never going to experience that quite like you're never going to naturally experience that amount of dopamine.
Yeah.
It's
That
not
euphoria.
yeah, you're never going to experience that level of euphoria in your everyday life again. Um, and it's kind of just like hard because anytime that you like think of it, like anytime that I think of it, I'm just reminded of that fact and also at the same time reminded of what it felt like, which is why time is like one of the like best things for addiction because eventually you don't ever really entirely forget, but you for the most part forget, or at least you don't think about it.
Yeah.
You don't think about what it feels like, which is usually what causes those urges and cravings.
Yeah. No, definitely. I mean, that sums it up perfectly. Like one day at a time. One day at a
Yeah,
time.
yeah. You literally have to take it like nothing else matters. If I can get through today without using drug, like while being sober,
Yeah.
then I did good.
Yeah.
And that's what you have to do. You have to like reinforce that and like give yourself positivity because after being in that state, it's hard to feel positive about much. So you really have to really have to force it. And that like that's what you need really cuz
Yeah.
otherwise it's like it's very hard to get through it.
Yeah. No, definitely. I mean, finding finding healthy ways to cope with your emotions is like the hardest thing ever. I mean, I
Oh my god, yeah.
it's still hard like today, but I mean, like I got lucky, I got blessed. I had a English teacher my sophomore year. She gave us a writing assignment like beginning of class. She said, "All right, write anything you want for 10 minutes. It can be a stick drawing, anything you want. It can be your grocery list, anything." And I just started writing about my mom, just feeling emotional that day. I didn't really like to talk about it at the time, but I didn't think that she was going to look at it. I thought that she was just going to be like, okay, good job. Let's move on. And so I wrote about it, and she saw the story and was like, hey, like you should write about this. And in that, I found a way to cope with my emotions. Like writing is something I do like every single day. Like I have to, whether it's just like a journal, just keeping, or what I did in the day or what I need to do. It's like um, I found a healthy way to cope with the things that I'm feeling, and it's like I'm trying to find that or help people find that. That's kind of why I enjoy talking about this because it can prevent people from coping in um, hazardous ways.
Yeah.
Drink or drug, you know?
Yeah. Those are I'm still personally trying to find ways to cope, or at least better ways, because I mostly listen to music, which is just distracting myself from it, which
Mhm.
is not always the best way to cope, because
Yeah,
all that means is that, like, later, when I don't have that distracting me from it, it's still going to
exactly.
be right there.
Yeah,
And I'm going to have to eventually pay attention to it sometime or another. So I'm currently trying to, like, find that thing.
yeah,
So,
yeah. I did want to ask, how did you kind of I mean, obviously your mom is like doing so many things and like so many great things in the community, but how did you kind of start getting interested into talking about this stuff?
well, I I've always like when I was still living with my grandmother and I would come up here and like stay over, I always was like, sure, I'll be in a video or whatever if you want me to, which I wasn't in too many as I was like younger.
Hmm.
Not when I was like younger, like really younger, but like just a couple years ago. Um, and then once once I like started once I it was around like January, I think it was January 10th or something. I came up here and started staying up here. I was like, since I'm staying here with you, I can be in your content more now, and I personally like my goal in life is to basically help as many people to not feel the way I felt as I can. Um, and my career goal is to be a to basically research medicines to like that are non-addictive that help people with anxiety, depression, mental illness.
Hmm.
Um,
Dang, that's
so that and the fact that I was now staying with my mother um, was kind of just like, hey, I can start to help some people out just by like going on her YouTube and like talking about these types of things. And like, I know, at least from what I've seen, there aren't too many young people speaking about addiction. And a lot of young people aren't being reached when it comes to content about addiction.
mhm.
So maybe I can add both of those things in and make it so that now there's another young person speaking about addiction, and maybe I can reach out to some younger people who like some younger people who um just maybe wouldn't have heard or wouldn't have been exposed to that like type of content,
Yeah,
like um other than through me or through somebody else's YouTube channel.
yeah, yeah. Us being like this age, like Gen Z, like making it more relatable for
Yeah.
people to hear. Like, you know, they might not want to listen to someone that's older and that's not in their generation or they don't think the same. It's like, I mean, when it's someone that you could know, it's a lot easier
Yeah.
to listen because you relate to them really well.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's really cool.
that's exactly what I said when I was talking to my mom about it, and she was
Yeah,
like, "Sure, you can start being on live streams and stuff." And now here I am. So,
yeah. There's a lot of us out there, children of
yeah.
addicts. There's a lot of us out there. So, I mean, helping anyone not go through what we went through or cope with what we went through. I mean, that's like the
Yeah.
number one goal. I mean, like, good for us, that's really cool that we're doing
Yeah.
that. I mean, a lot of people can feel bad for themselves, but I mean, I only
Yeah.
see like the
I try to
future,
look in the positives and things.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
We only have now. I mean, the
yeah.
past is the
Why
past.
why are you going to purposefully think about something that is going to make you like feel more negative about stuff when you could think about it positively and feel better about things, be in
Yeah.
a better mood every day and just like, you know, that's something that I took a while to learn. Um how give me an idea of like what your process of kind of um like besides the writing, was there anything else that like you learned to use to like cope?
Yeah. I mean, the writing was kind of the first step in realizing that my emotions were real. I mean, I was just so sad and down in the dumps that like I didn't even realize why I was sad. I was just there. That was just my reality. So I started writing, and once I kind of got the courage to show people my writing, um, I music is a big one, but just talking to people that can relate to me. So I've talked to a lot of children of addicts. It's like you said, right? We're relating to people. It's easy. It's easy to talk
Hmm.
to someone that's been through the same thing as you.
Yeah.
And so really just talking like, why do I feel this way? Like, you went through, your mom is clean. My mom is in the process of it. Even though you're younger than me, I still have questions for you because you went through something that I haven't been through yet, and I want to know how to feel about it or how you felt about it, so I can see if my feelings are valid. Um, but my biggest thing is just like talking to people. I mean, we can relate to anyone. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, talking to random people in the grocery store or whatever it is. I feel like just talking to people and conversing with, someone that you might pass and never see again. I mean, they could really open your eyes to something. And so, yeah, that's pretty much my biggest thing. I'm a people person. I like talking to people. I like helping people, and yeah, that's my other outlet.
Hmm. Yeah. I I I'm like a little bit, I wouldn't say shy. I'm not one to talk too much or get too much out of my comfort zone of talking until I know the person. And then once I know you, you're gonna want me to shut the hell up because I'm not gonna stop talking.
Yeah, I feel that.
Um,
I feel that
I
for sure.
will like talk for I can go on like 20-minute rants about like one tiny little topic and I will not even realize until it's like, oh, hey, I've spent the last 20 minutes talking about some niche subject that probably nobody else here knows what the hell I'm saying, but
Yeah.
oh well, I guess I'm here now.
Yeah, I'm the same way with like video games and stuff, or random YouTube videos that I'll watch.
Yeah.
Like my favorite thing to do is like turn on a YouTube video at night, like movies. I really love movies, and so like I can talk about movies all day. Like, I love movies, and it's like super random. It's like people haven't even seen this movie, and I'm like over here obsessed about it, watching all these videos on it. Yeah,
Yeah.
just random things.
For me, I just like a lot of like narrating content, so things that I don't have to really watch.
Hmm.
So I can just like listen to it because just because I tend to like to sleep where I'm like facing something, so like whether I'm facing a wall or like um facing like just something that's close. I don't like to, I don't know why. It's just a weird thing that I have, but so I'll put on something that I can just like listen to.
Yeah.
Um and then also the one like specific niche subject that I like is I know way too much about like drugs and how they affect the brain. which is why I want to go into the career I want to go into, because
Yeah.
my goal in life is to help as many people as I can not feel the way that I felt, and the knowledge and skills that I already have now that can be improved through like going to school, like med school and stuff. Um just that's basically what fits the goal and the like tools I have, I guess.
Yeah.
Um so and like the way that I got interested in it is really like it's I think it was because of the fact that my mother was addicted. Um I always had like drugs were always present in my life. And so I think that just kind of gave me a interest in them. Like I was just like, why does this why does this do this? Like,
Yeah.
and I've always also been like one to take apart things and like figure out how they work. And
Mhm.
so it's like taking apart a drug and figuring out how it works, and then re like and then basically reverse engineering a similar drug to help people like that suffer from any type of mental illness, like whatever mental illness, like whatever drug there is for it.
Yeah.
Just like, why the hell does it do that?
Yeah.
Because we know less about like the human brain than we do about like our own like universe.
Oh yeah.
It's it's crazy, and it's like it's just really interesting as well.
Yeah.
It's it's very peculiar
Yeah.
just how everything works. Do you have anything else you want to talk about?
Um. So, how what kind of schooling do you have to do to to get into that field? I guess like, is it a lot of schooling? I assume it's a lot of schooling.
Um, yeah. So at least I don't know what's like the minimum, but what I would like to do for schooling for that is one, I want to be like so for like a normal college, I want to be a major in biochem,
Hmm.
which gives me the organic chemistry knowledge, which comes with a lot of drugs. Um, and then on top of that, I'm pretty sure that I will need med school for like psychiatry, psychology, um, because you have to know the mental illness and what it entails, and like specifically what parts of the brain are causing the effects of that mental illness, so you can like research and if you like are a psychiatrist like to prescribe those substances, so like it's that's the part that less I'm less interested in, like the more psychological part, more the neurochemical part of it,
Yeah.
where it's like how do I make something that attaches to this receptor and also attached to like whatever other receptors.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's like it's med school plus like um probably a good chemistry degree.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's really interesting that we give someone that might have a, anxiety, depression, we give them something that could potentially make their life 10 times worse, 100 times worse if they got addicted to it. And these things are extremely addictive. And it's just like you're set up to
Yeah,
fail. Like if you have one little issue, you get this thing
yeah,
that could potentially ruin your life.
yeah. That's why. I specifically want to research non-addictive drugs for that, just because like while yes, these drugs that are addictive may be like for some people they're necessary. Like somebody that has epilepsy might need a benzo. Like they might need like Klonopin or usually Xanax and prescribed for epilepsy just because how short it lasts. Um, but like they might need that. And like so while I don't like to say that like drugs like that are objectively bad, um they could definitely be improved upon and new drugs working in on like different mechanisms in the brain could be made and like could be possibly explored to make drugs to help with like things like that, anxiety, depression.
Yeah.
Um, one last quick thing. Was there any like difference in the like how you felt about addiction um just right before and right after your mother's addiction?
I
Like
think
before she had
my
gotten addicted and after?
before she did, I mean, I just I don't think I was mentally sophisticated enough to even realize what it was. But nowadays, I'm just a lot more empathetic, and realize that it is not like no one wants to be out there. Like no one wants to be, addicted to something that could kill them. Like that is just not something. It's just not like a reality. And I realize the shame behind it and the shame of wanting to get help and not being able to because it's just you're so embarrassed of it. But I'm
Mm-hmm.
definitely very empathetic for those people, and like I have so much hope for them. I mean, all I want is for them to get better, and I want them to feel better about themselves. Like, um, yeah, empathy. Empathy is definitely the biggest one, and like like you're interested in is like knowing why it happens. That's really interesting to me because, I mean, if it's happening to this many people, there has to be there's an
There,
explanation for it.
yeah,
Like, there
and
has to be.
there's gotta be something big that like could at least hopefully be like changed or like at least be um exposed more so that people have more of an understanding and it's not like addiction isn't demonized like how it is
Mhm. Yeah,
um
exactly.
cuz a lot of people are just like afraid to show that they're addicted because they're afraid what people will say
Mhm. Yeah.
and you have to show that you are to get help. So it's like it's just a very thankfully times are changing, but it's still very sad when it does happen that people like don't get the help that they need.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely, I mean, the resources are extremely scarce. Yeah, we went to a city city council meeting, and there was I want to say 13 like county provided beds to get to detox on 13.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And there was I want to say like 6,000 reports, just like police reports of like something including fentanyl. So there's that many beds to detox on. So, say you want to reach out for help, you have this slim of a chance to get the help when you ask. And
Yeah.
yeah, just the resources need to be. There needs to be more. I mean, there's not enough, and it's extremely sad when there's a short window that an addict may want to, get clean, and they have an awakening moment, and they just, oh, it'll be 3 weeks. It's like 3 weeks is a extremely long time for someone in that situation. Like, you could be
Yeah.
homeless.
Like
Like,
and also anything like could really change with your mentality in those 3 weeks. It's like
yeah,
you could like feel you could feel completely different just because like you could whether it's just like you've been seeing stuff, like seeing content on your phone or device, like whatever you're on, um, or just out of nowhere feeling like, hey, maybe if I like go get some help, I can actually get through this. And then it's like, oh, hey, guess what? You're gonna have to like wait here for a while before you are able to even get the remote little bit of access to the help. And it's like,
Yeah.
what? I thought you
Yeah.
guys were supposed to be here for that. And it's like,
Yeah.
well, we're supposed to, but
Yeah. I mean, but there's so many other people. I mean, and that's yeah, that's the issue. Is it's spreading so much that we're like it's getting overloaded. Like the resources can't keep up.
yeah. And what we also need to be doing as well is like educating people, like educating younger people on addiction before it happens to them. Like, and not just in the way that Dare did. If
Yeah, I remember
if any
Dare.
Dare kids out there are watching that remember Dare, yeah, that I don't think that really helped anybody because I
It was
personally
interesting.
know that I got the Dare experience and I still ended up being addicted, so I don't think it really helped too much. If
No.
anything, it probably gave me more of a beginning interest in drugs,
Yeah. Yeah. I
which
mean, when kids are
I've
not
heard,
exposed to it.
yeah. And it's like it's like this is the only parallel I can think of is like telling it's like telling a prisoner ways other people have escaped and telling them not to try anything, and it's like, oh hey, thanks for giving me ideas.
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it's like it's like they didn't have any thoughts of doing that in the first place, but now you told them about it. Now they're thinking about it and they're like, oh hey, what if I do this?
Yeah. I mean, the intention was there. I mean, it's a good, it's a
It's a
good
good
intention.
intention. The implementation just was not there. It was not on
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
Um, well, I think that's about all the time that I mean unless you want to go for longer, I could go for longer.
I'm up for whatever. I mean, I'm just happy to be here, really. I mean, you and your mom really give me hope for my situation. So I was like, I will totally love to talk to him because that is it's helpful to me.
Yeah. Well, in that case, what would you like to talk about?
Man, what would I like to talk about? Um, kind of the relationship with your mom now, like opening up with your mom about your feelings and stuff. Like how did that come about, or how hard was it?
Um, well, I have always been like very open with her. Um, and I know that she has a lot of like self-doubt issues sometimes, so I have to like sometimes I feel like she almost doesn't believe me when I say that I like hold literally zero resentment and like
Okay.
I completely understand and forgive you for like everything that happened, and it's like sometimes I just don't feel like she believes me. Which I know like when I'm like talking to her in the moment she does, but I just feel like sometimes when she like when you just like kind of get in your head and you're like almost getting yourself down a little bit, I feel like sometimes she might do that.
Yeah.
Um so I just while I've always been like super open with her about it. I I also always like I always try to even if it isn't being like brought up, I always try to emphasize and like bring it up again just like just how much I understand like what she was going through. And I also another part of that is I understand what she was going through on like a different level because we were raised by the same, like, my grandmother basically raised me for most of what I can remember, and that's the same person that raised her for her childhood. So
Yeah.
it's like we had a very similar experience coming, like in terms of that. Um, so it's like, yes, I definitely understand. Like, I understand that like even even before, like, my mother's addiction was really brought into the household, it was still chaotic. It wasn't very calm. It's wasn't really very also wasn't very positive household,
Mm,
which is one thing I love about being here with my mother now. It's like there is nothing but positivity. It's
yeah.
like I actually feel like appreciated and hopeful for things,
Hmm.
instead of just being like, uh, yeah, I mean, I hope to do this in my future, but I'm not too, I'm not too sure about it, but gives me a bit more, like, well, I had a little bit of hope. I have a lot more now.
Yeah.
And I know that, like, at the start of it, there just weren't, like, at the start of my mom coming around again, there just weren't too many conversations on it. Um so it was just like, I don't know, it was just like more over time, just small interactions that just like I expressed the, like, just the fullness of my feelings.
Yeah.
It wasn't all in like one big conversation, which I think is good because like you don't want to overwhelm them.
Yeah. No, definitely. I feel like coming gradually would be a lot easier on both of the mental health, both parties.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um yeah.
I mean, if you have any other questions, I'm good. But I think that was my last question. Very curious about that one because trying to figure
Yeah.
that one out as well.
I personally don't have any other questions. I mean, I could talk about just like some random stuff on the live stream for a little while. If you want more, we can of course hop off the stream and just talk about it in the studio.
Yeah, I actually had a couple more personal questions that I'm not really ready for the public to hear yet. But I would love to ask you a couple more questions off of the live stream.
All right. Well, you heard it, guys. That's gonna be all for tonight. I will see you all on another live stream and see you guys later.
See ya.